Okay, HeatWave. I gotta say this before we get started because I don't want to talk about this again afterward. I just want to say what's in the show. Guys, when you see NXT now, it has gone through 3 iterations. Now about to hit a 4th one. 4. First one was the Triple H era, which only lasted until when AEW appeared and he had his heart problem and left. If anybody said he was there, he was not. He already had a heart problem. He left. Vince took over. And he has to take all of it. He's got to eat it. Because once Triple H left and 2.0 started, that pretty much, that's it. Because you know the difference between 2018 and the 19 and going beyond that. Because 18 is when he had the problem with his heart. Roughly about 19, he was already gone, and that's when AEW appeared. He was not there, no matter what you say. He was basically doing what Vince did. Things were remote when he was allowed to, because he had a heart problem. There was no lie about that. Guy almost died. So Vince took over. Then when Vince was ousted, he was forced to leave, Shawn Michaels took over. And you saw last year, there was a difference in the product. At least until the beginning of January, March. I'd say about March is when the product really began to change. And you know for a fact when NXT, it began to change roughly around March. And now we have what Vince wants. Whatever's left over, Vince wants. Even with back surgery, he's still making an influence on the show. We know this. He's contacting by remote like he was before he had the back surgery and now afterward. Shawn Michaels is doing exactly what he's been told, and he tries to make it work. If Vince says he wants something, he's got to make it work. So the reason I said this is because this show doesn't feel right. It's got stuff on it that's good, but you can tell there's something wrong. Now, Ilya Dragunov versus Trick Williams. Simple match. But it was a good match, a good opener. We've been wondering if Trick Williams could actually function on his own. As a wrestler, not as a character. This is a big question because we know Trick can talk. He's got the gab. We have no problem. He can do a character. But can he work a match properly? Can he hang with people? I will tell you that from what I can see from the last couple of times he's wrestled, it's not bad. He's like, floats about here. He needs more time. Because now he doesn't have to worry about Carmelo Hayes. He always had to make sure Carmelo came first. Now it's him. And I do not believe he's there yet due to the fact that now he's got to find himself. Guys, if you think he found himself, he has not. Yes, he did a damn good job with Ilya Dragunov. He did. If you didn't like the match, I can understand it. But did he do a good job there? Yes, there were some botches a couple of times. You can see that when he kicked him right in the face, he did make Dragunov bleed legitimately. But Dragunov won, which was a surprise. And he won Dragunov respect, which goes with the storyline. But still, there's going to be a big question. Trick can talk. He can hold a character. We know now that he can wrestle. Okay, it needs work. He needs work with his wrestling due to the fact he's not going to find a character to go with the wrestling. Just being able to wrestle is one thing, but his character's got to make sense to go with it because he's got to make it work all together. So he ain't there yet, but at least it is something. Ivy Nile versus Ava. No longer Ava Raine, just Ava. Now I'm going to tell you this. The last time I saw Ava wrestle, I was like Nia Jax. I'm not going to lie. If you think she was an incredible wrestler, fine, that's you. But I evaluate her fully. And she reminded me of Nia Jax, who was not always a great wrestler. In many cases, hurt a lot of women and a few men because she was being very careless. People say, well, in wrestling, people can get hurt. It happens. Yeah, but with her, it happened a lot. We had 7 women who had been reported on and off getting hurt because of her. And then that incident with Charlotte Flair did not help much. So when I look at Ava, I see basically a Nia Jax the first time I saw her wrestle. Now, did she wrestle well? On this one, it was a little better. So I'm hoping she's been practicing more. So when you see this, I'm not going to tell you that she went from here to here. No, she was here. She came up a little bit. That's how I saw it. I'm evaluating it fairly. She did show some improvement, but from what I saw last time, it wasn't good. I'm telling you, she reminded me of an early Nia Jax, which, of course, she's in NXT. But not the good Nia Jax that had potential. The bad Nia Jax before she left the company because she was acting like an ass. And they just got rid of her anyway. That's the type of wrestling she did. Okay? I'm just being honest here. Now, this was kind of surprising that she would tap out. With all of Schism around, she would tap out. But they wanted to set up the story about the Creeds because once she got beat by Ivy Nile, and Ivy wanted to just rip her head off, and she already nailed at least 2 other women that was in Schism. We don't know who they were. They were just in masks and sweatshirts. They always do sweatshirts. It's the easiest way to hide a person. 2 of them took her away. And she said, I'm in front of the tree, the Schism's tree. No one can touch us. Ivy came out. The 2 that were with her said, she called them out and said, go get her, but they didn't. And they took off the mask. It was Julius and Brutus. Ivy got her revenge by beating a little bit of you're kidnapping Ava to convince Schism to go into a we're doing a steel cage match. If the Creeds win, they're reinstated. Really? Let me get this straight. The Schism has to be convinced to get into a steel cage. If they lose, the Creeds are back. Really? This didn't really feel like very good booking. This felt like bad booking. What was the point of throwing the Creeds onto the main roster? Because that's where they went. And then on and off going back to NXT. And it really wasn't booked that greatly. I know that the Schism had a lot of shine due to the fact that I'm getting attacked constantly, but it really didn't help the Creeds. We didn't see them on the main roster. That was the major problem. So this was half-assed. I don't agree with it. And now they're trying to throw them back onto NXT, where if they're thrown back in NXT, fine, but does that mean they'll gain anything? I don't know. Next, the Heritage Cup. The fake champ versus the real champ. Frazier versus Nolan Dar. With the metaphor by his side. Which, this is all about the metaphor helping him to win. First round, tie. Second round, which is becoming very, very, very predictable. A lot of times the second round, one of the 2 wins and Nolan Dar won. Third round and fourth round, and this time at least the 5th round, no one at all won. But by the 3rd round, I will say, seeing Nolan Dar give a back elbow to Frazier right after the bell, that was alright. It was good to see because he is doing whatever he had to. But seeing that legitimately the ref let Metaphor continue to mess with them, and instead of ejecting them, which he should have, you literally got Lash Legend interfering in the 5th round, and then you see Mensa and Lash Legend again interfering again, and they won. Now, mind you, this is where it gets like, okay, now what do we got? We now going to have a global invitational for the next person that's going after the Heritage Cup, because Nolan Dar got a paper from the Heritage Committee, and he gets that. Let me give it to you like this. Was this good storytelling? Not really. And I don't know if this is going to be any better going forward. I would have liked to see Tyler Bates. Excuse me. I went walking today a long distance, and I forgot my allergy medicine. I feel like terrible. All here. Excuse me. Oh, if anyone has ever been in New York, go to Jack's. They got some pretty decent prices there. I haven't been there like in 6 years. I forgot. Someone reminded me and I went to check it. Pretty cool. But anyway, do I believe this global tournament is going to be good? Yes. Do I believe that it's going to help a Nolan Dar? I don't know. Will it help a Frazier? Don't know. Will it help a Tyler Bates? Maybe. Because he was supposed to be next in line if Frazier won. So it's going to be a question. Now, what did we get from the segment that needed to happen, but I felt absolutely nothing because of what was going on that came out later? We get Tiffany Staten. She finally talks about the summer of Tiffany being over, and soon the next stage of her development is going to be. I mean, she's already developed. She's like, let's. I'm not trying to sound too nasty, but damn, she's a good-looking woman. What can I say? But I felt nothing from her for weeks upon weeks upon weeks, even when she was shown once Mommy showed up, Rhea Ripley. She has been she's been nothing because of Rhea. Literally, Rhea being there has basically neutered her. We finally get her on TV talking about who she is, and since she's still very, very underdeveloped when it comes to her mic skills, she needs more work. But at least there is something there. But because of Rhea showing up so much, I'm not feeling her as a real champion. But once we get Tiffany, who do we get? Tiffany, we got Gigi, we got Kiana James, we got Davenport, and we got Roxanne, who basically decked her in the face when she came out a few seconds after she spoke to her. You can say at least they are trying to build her as something. And it's going to be a fatal four-way, I think next week or week after. I think next week. But here's the problem, guys. Due to the fact of her not being there, due to the fact that they've been showing more of Mommy, more of Rhea Ripley, I don't even see her as a legitimate champion. I would rather see Rhea Ripley just take the damn title off her and just keep it. Because I don't feel anything from her. I don't, because of what they did with Rhea Ripley. This is the major issue that NXT has. As much as people are saying, oh, NXT ratings are up. Oh, I like NXT more better. It's like the roster. Well, here's the problem. By doing this, you're killing the roster. Here's the problem. Yes, the opening of the show, I didn't say this, had Tony D'Angelo and Stax setting up the show. But knowing that, look what happened. We got a segment with Mommy, Dom, and a Mustafa Ali. Just feels it's tacked on. And I don't really feel a lot from the show because we got more of the main roster there than you should. And I've said, and I would be glad that the main roster would be there if they stayed there. If they became a member of the NXT brand like Apollo Crews did. I had no problem with Apollo being there because he wasn't seen on the main roster. But you're doing work from the main roster to there. And it's messing it up. Because I don't feel any attachment to Rhea for NXT. I know she's from Raw. Why the fuck do I care? I'm just saying. And now let's get to this match. Dom and Mommy versus Valkyria and Dragon Lee. Now, was it a bad match? No. It was not meant to be a bad match. It was meant to be a good match. It was not bad. But I'm going to tell you truthfully, seeing Lyra Valkyria trying to do back kicks to a woman taller than her, and she's not trying to jump high enough like a RVD would to try and get enough torque to make it look real. Because her just doing like a ballerina, basically, like a ballerina back kick. You know how ballerinas, if they spin around on their tippy toe, to be able to make the leg move around fast. That didn't feel like it was real. It didn't feel like a martial arts back kick. It felt like a ballerina's back kick. It doesn't mean it would be effective. That's the problem with Lyra Valkyria. That she needs to be in a character that makes sense. Knowing Lyra Valkyria the way her character is, being as aggressive and as powerful as she is, she looks too dainty. And she hasn't adjusted her how can I say this without sounding like Valkyria's trash, which she's not. She can wrestle other women who's near her height. But you're talking about Rhea Ripley, who's much bigger than her, much stronger than her, much taller than her. And instead of trying to adapt to it and to make it look really good for her to jump at her as she did her spin kick, would have been more effective. She did 2 or 3 spin kicks at her, and it felt like a ballerina spin kick. It didn't feel legitimate. It didn't feel like it would really hurt her. Sometimes you got to make the move look like it will hurt you. It doesn't always have to. Just saying. Of course, who do we get to show up? And this is where I'm saying that the main roster filtering on the NXT takes away from NXT. Raquel Rodriguez comes in, attacks a Rhea Ripley, and allows the distraction of Dom to a Dragon Lee, and Dragon gets the pin. This could have easily happened anyway. There could have been some type of distraction, of course. But knowing that it was Raquel Rodriguez, who should have never been there, she's a SmackDown wrestler who now appears on NXT, who shouldn't be there on NXT because she has a fucking contract for SmackDown, not fucking NXT. She is not a free agent. Baron Corbin is a free agent. He can go to any show. I can buy him being there because at least they set it up months ahead of time, and going to Von Wagner versus Baron Corbin. There was no match. It was just a beatdown. And it made Von Wagner look good until he got destroyed by Braun Breaker, which was fine. I bought that because they set it up ahead of time. What do we get from Baron Corbin? Baron Corbin is a free agent that can bounce from Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Superstars if they do it, or main event. It doesn't matter. He can go to any show he wants or is needed. But Raquel Rodriguez is not. Rhea Ripley is not. Dominic Mysterio is not. None of them are. And this just messed up the show for me. But seeing Baron Corbin made perfect sense because it's been booked that way. So I can see Baron Corbin now aligning himself with Braun Breaker, dealing with Von Wagner, and maybe we might actually get some situation where we're going to have Mr. Stone in a match with Von Wagner, Braun Breaker, and Baron Corbin. I'm not saying they'll go there, but you know what I mean. Now, the last match of the night. If I'm forgetting something, I wouldn't be surprised. Let me give it to you like this. We had the best match of the night when it came to Melo versus I'll say, I don't know if I'm going to put this as a title, but Wes can hang. I think that would be the best title. Can he become a world champion? Yes. This shows it. Now, I know not everyone's going to like Wesley because they don't like his style of wrestling. I've always loved Wesley because I knew when he was in Impact Wrestling, when I first saw him before he became a rascal, it was not just his in-ring work. I'm not a huge fan of aerial all the time. It's very specific people like Pac. Pac's my boy. He is a very, very heavy aerialist. But he's been trained well enough to know how to do psychology with it and know when it's time to do aerial, when it's time to start beating someone down, and when it's time to fuck with the fans, no matter if you like that or not. Wesley, he does also have that, not to the extent of Pac, but it's there. I saw when I first saw him in Impact, he still has it here. His attitude, his ring work, and his personality along with his mic skills has gotten really good. For me personally, his mic skills have gotten way better than it was when I first saw him when he first came into NXT. When he was with Wentz and Carter. As now he's known as Alex Wentz. Alex Wentz, but he basically Carter. Let me give it to you like this. If you're going to watch anything, watch this last match because I believe this was the best match. Now, of course, Dragunov and Trick Williams was a good opening. This was the best match. Seeing that they tried to set up the story where Wes was willing to do anything to win. Next to busting his head onto one of the retaining walls that basically looks like it's foam, which it probably is. It was fine. Seeing that he managed to get back in the ring but still got his ass handed to him, Yes, he lost. But Wes Lee is able to become a champion. He was a great North American champion, but I do believe if he becomes world champion, they need to adjust. He needs to change a little bit. He needs to be a little bit different. That's what I feel. He does have that feeling of Bryan Danielson, who's still out on injury. But he does feel like an early Daniel Bryan, but at least he has more development than he would a Bryan Danielson when he first came in to WWE, where he had to learn their style. But that's just me. Let me give it to you like this. When it comes to NXT, it is off, mainly due to the fact they're throwing more and more and more wrestlers that are from Raw and SmackDown onto the show. And they're putting the storylines there, which I don't agree with. Unless they say openly that the draft is done, this is going to continually piss people off. Now, mind you, the ratings are up. Fine. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm just telling you my observation that when you see how WWE conducts itself and tell you something, you can't take it at face value because they keep changing it so much that casual fans will watch this because this is what this is about. I'm not even going to put any images in here. I'm going to upload this straight because I want to make this clear to you. I'm probably going to talk a couple more minutes. But this is what people don't understand, particularly one person that's going to be saying, you see, everything is great. No, it's not. Because there's a difference between the casual fan and the hardcore ones. You're going to get an uptick of casual fans that's just wanting to look at anything. That's the truth. Guys, if you actually think there's a huge amount of people that's going to be watching NXT because they're hardcore fans, they're not. They're casual fans. Now, mind you, that's very good, but that counts if they come back continually. And the problem is, sooner or later, they won't. And you're going to have to rely on the hardcore fans. And they're not happy. WWE has lied about the one thing they wanted to make it special. The draft. The draft means nothing. I said it when it first happened. I told you this was going to happen. And now it just shows, particularly in NXT. Because now, what do they got to do to make NXT ratings go up? You're not trying to make NXT better with the current roster you got. Remember, they're from the Performance Center. Anyone that says, well, NXT is great, I'm going to tell you, you're wrong. NXT is not great because you're using mainline roster on the developmental. Instead of building your developmental correctly, you're throwing mainline wrestlers at it because you have failed in training the people properly. Or better yet, giving them what they need, which is practice in understanding good storylines, practice in getting good booking, practice in getting exposure just to know that they're on the show. If Rhea Ripley's on the show, that means someone in the back is not getting on there. Same with Dom, the same with Mustafa Ali, Baron Corbin, that's not the problem. It's all right. But Raquel Rodriguez as well? What happened when they started showing Dana Brooke again? Yeah, she's been working with Jordan. But what happened when they make it about her turning heel on Jordan? Because they're going there. You can see it happening. This will be about Dana Brooke, who does show up on the main roster, who's going to have a feud with someone who just started being viewed on TV. Can you justify that? Whoever says that NXT is great, can you justify that a Jordan who just barely has been seen, who's not really going to have enough understanding of how to be booked correctly, is going to be dealing with a Dana Brooke? It's not the point if Dana can wrestle or not. You're throwing a mainline wrestler at her when she really isn't ready yet. She should be working with other normal NXT wrestlers and then build up into her. They're not even doing that. That shows bad booking. Peace.